I think we're going to get started here. So sadly, Dan is not heading the meeting today. You're stuck with me. So hi, everyone. My name's Sarah. So let's see. We have a short agenda today, but just going over some basic ground rules. If you have questions and you're online, feel free to enter them into the chat. If you're in person, please raise your hand so that we can bring the microphone over to you so everyone online can hear. As usual, common courtesy, limited interruptions. So our agenda today is going to start off with ward updates with Alderman Browning's legislative assistant, Caitlin, crime and safety report with Officer Walker, neighborhood updates from Ron Coleman, treasurer's report from Cami. We'll give a little recap of some recent events. We're going to preview board elections, which are upcoming. Nominations are next month. And then we have two speakers with us today to tell us a little bit about Midtown and some research on congestion pricing. So let's start off with Ward 9 updates. I don't have anything, I don't think.
Perfect, good. Hello, everyone. I'm Caitlin. I use she, her pronouns. I've only been in this job about a month. My second day was the first meeting that we had a month ago. But I'm happy to be here. And if I have my contact information, I finally have business cards. So if you want that, you can come up to me later and I can give it to you, as well as we can put it in the chat. So only two real updates. And then if you guys have any questions, the next development committee meeting will be September 26th at 6:30. We'll either be here or Park Central. We don't know which place yet. And then we're also working on relaunching the infrastructure committee soon, and we'll have more details on that in the near future. That's all I have. Does anyone have any? We only had 1 week in session, so there's not really any legislative updates. But do any of you guys have questions? Oh yeah, this is what the development is on. It's the 4100 Manchester Ave. So the project is to do, I believe it's 28 apartments. So they would have to do demolition of the current building. But because of its historical importance, they will have a pink wall on the outside, but they we're not going to be able to keep the building because there was a lot of structural damage is what they're talking about. So definitely come to that meeting and for the listen to everyone there talk about, but it's an important building to many people. So if you have any opinions on that, please come. You have it, yeah.
I can add a little background information on this. So this is a proposal that was submitted probably a little over a year ago, but ended up stalling out. We wanted to have kind of a comprehensive community engagement around it because it does require the demolition of the existing building. You're probably familiar with it. It is the one-story pink building on the corner of Sarah and Manchester. It's been vacant since 2021, but for the 30 years or so before that, it was one of the longest serving gay bars in the Grove. And it was a bar called Attitudes. A lot of people have very, very good memories of that place. And so they wanted to make sure that people have a chance to kind of weigh in on this. From an urbanist perspective, this is like a really great project. It has a less than 1-to-1 parking ratio. It brings a lot of new units. It has first floor retail. It fits into the streetscape really well, but also at the same time, we want to make sure that we're respectful of the history in the neighborhood and want to give people a chance to kind of discuss whether that's really what they want to see. So as Caitlin mentioned, the development committee is going to be on 28.
September 26th at 6:30, either here or Park Central. Okay, does anyone have any questions for me?
Thank you. So we're gonna have a crime and safety report from Officer Walker.
Walker, your neighborhood liaison officer. Just a quick update. I have the printout of you guys' crime from the last 3 weeks. It's a couple of incidents on here that I did update with a little information for you. So if you're interested in knowing what's going on in your neighborhood, I have those. Not a lot again that goes on. You guys, busiest location is the Grove, the Manchester Strip. That keeps us busy. That keeps a lot of the crime up in the neighborhood. Outside of that, I've been someone reached out to me and was speaking about suspicious activity with a group of young guys, maybe 4 to 6 individuals lurking in the alleyways around Tower Grove and Vista. If you guys are seeing any suspicious activity, people hanging out in your alleyways, hanging out at vacant properties, anything like that, give us a call. 911 is the quickest option. I know when you can't get through. You can also do the non-emergency number. And if all fails, push come to shove, you can contact the station and the desk people there can transfer you, and get you to the right person that you need to speak with if you can't get through on either one of those lines. But again, I don't have a lot. No one's really complained or reached out to me about anything. I did get one complaint regarding Shoto Park with some individuals hanging out after hours. I did reach out to the park rangers, and they should be making some extra stops during the nights when the park is closed between 10 and 6 or 10 and 7 a.m. So if you're in the area, you should be seeing some patrols. And if you're seeing suspicious activity again in that area, please reach out and let me know. I can give you my number. My direct number is up there, the 444-0107. And my email, I don't see it on there, but if you call that number, leave me a message and I will return your call. If you want to email me, you can do so at NC, that's Ennis and Nancy, Sis, and Charles Walker at slmpd.org. There we go. Emails work very well. If I'm not in the office, if I'm in my car, I do have my emails up so I can respond back. Emails also work. If I'm not in the office, I can respond and send those emails to the other 2 neighborhood liaison officers that are working. So if it's something that I can't handle, if I'm off and they're working, they can follow up and reach out to you also about it. But that's all I have. If you have any questions for me, I'll stick around for a bit because I do have to get to a second meeting. But if you have anything you want to discuss, I'll stick around.
I do have a really quick question that I've just kind of been wondering about. What's the difference between a liaison officer and like a regular patrol?
With us, we do community meetings, community events, school visit, business meetings, things of that such, where the regular officer just basically, responding to the radio calls. We also fill in when the district is short, so we do answer radio calls. So like I said, we are in and out the office, just doing special projects or, whatever special event is going on in the neighborhood, things of that such. We work alongside with the alderpersons, the NSOs, my nuisance property officers, and like I say, businesses, neighborhood events, whatever's going on, we're there. No. Typically, we are, day shift, but when things are going on in the district, we have to change our hours accordingly. So if it's an event going on in the evening, we try to be there. I did miss a couple of you guys' event due to the downtown issues because we have to give up a weekend every month to work downtown. So I did miss you guys Shoto Park, and I hope someone got back because I did request that a car stop by at least a couple of times for you guys park out, and I don't know if that happened or not, but I did put in that. But yeah, we're all over, no set hours.
We had drug dealing on the sidewalk during the event.
Yeah. All right. Ron, neighborhood updates beyond the drug dealing in Shoto Park.
We're working on it. Oh, thanks. Good evening, everyone. My agenda is right here on my phone. If you don't know me, I'm your neighborhood improvement specialist, basically a liaison for the city to all the city departments and businesses for you guys. So if you have any questions about anything from infrastructure to safety and security to just not getting along with your neighbor, then just feel free to work through some issues with me and I'll see if I can help. By now, those of you that are in parking districts may know that you can get your permit now through the city treasurer's website. I think it's $40 and hopefully you won't get any more tickets. If you do get a ticket and you've got your permit, I will try to get rid of the ticket for you. So another good reason to know who I am, I guess. Some good news on, well, not good news. I can't share that good news yet, but there are, so the properties on Kings Highway that everyone knows about that are ready to fall down and have graffiti on them. If you've been trying to get the graffiti removed, Brightside is not going to remove the graffiti because they're dangerous buildings and there's bricks falling off. So they told me today again, after another request, that they're not going to do it. So I apologize. We're trying to figure out a way to make them appear nicer to the neighborhood. I know it's kind of this black eye on the whole neighborhood, but the alderman and we have some things up our sleeve, so to speak, I guess, but hopefully we'll see some movement there soon. The trees, just keep watering them. They don't go dormant for another month or two. So if you have a new baby tree in your yard or a couple-year-old tree, just try to throw some water on it every week or so and keep it healthy so it doesn't die. Bulk items, I know this is supposed to be bulk collection week up, so this Thursday is usually when they pick up, but they're a week behind. So your bulk items aren't going to be picked up until next week. So you still have time to get anything out of your basement or house that you don't want anymore and let the scrappers come by and get it, but have it out by next week at least. And then lastly, I think you're going to talk about the neighborhood cleanup Saturday, but I'm going to try to be there because this is one of my pain in the rear alleys over here on Norfolk and Swan, 4300. So I hope to see many of you there Saturday at 10. I'll be there too. But that's all I have to say today. If you have any questions, let me know. I don't think that is the problem. But yeah, sometimes it has to do with children not throwing trash away properly, people that don't care. I've seen grown adults come out with the bag of trash and just toss it across the alley next to the dumpster. So yeah, we're just all of us have to chip in and help. If we want our neighborhood to look nice, we all have to kind of do extra things we don't want to have to do or shouldn't have to do, but it's the way it is. Because if you leave it alone, it's going to just compound and get worse. So, okay, thank you. I'll be around afterwards if you have any more questions.
Hi, this is Cami with the Treasurer's Report. In August, we had, let me see, we had our usual $15.99. It's the wrong update, but it's okay. In August, we had the usual $15.99 in Zoom expenses, and we had, I think, $287 in expenses for keeping our website updated. And this is also showing how much we spent on the Great Gathering, which was a huge success. And Sarah's going to talk about that later. So next year, we'll definitely ask for more donations, but also your dues helped to support that event. So thank you for being members. If you want to be a dues paying member, you can pay via Cash App. It's a sliding scale because we want everyone to be able to be a member if they want to be. So either Cash App, can you go to the next slide? FPSENA, or contact us at forestparksoutheast@gmail for cash or check, or see me after the meeting. I think that's it.
Any questions? Nope. Okay. All right. So 2024 board elections. So the annual board elections are held in November. And every year we vote on all of the positions. So in October, we'll make a call for nominations. You can nominate yourself. You can nominate someone else. I would hope that you would get their permission before you do that, though. So the name position of nominee must be made before the end of the October meeting. And you must be a dues paying member. So like I said, all the positions are listed here. It's president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, member at large. There are like duties associated with each of the different positions. Dan's our president, and he takes on kind of the bulk of the communication with people. But we kind of all play a role with trying to suggest people to come in and speak, and doing correspondence and reaching out and managing schedules. The secretary does the minutes and will submit it for posting on the website and sending out in the email announcing kind of the next month's agenda. Treasurer handles the bank account and accepts dues, and member at large just kind of gets to sit around and help out where needed. It's the best position. If you have any questions about serving on the board, please reach out. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have. Cammie's our current treasurer. Mark is the current secretary. And then, Dan is enjoying himself on vacation right now. I hope he's having a lot of fun and not thinking of us. And Aaron is our vice president. If you have any questions about the positions, like I said, please reach out. We're more than happy to answer questions. So, are there any questions right now? No? Okay. Say what? Yeah. Okay.
If I wanted to serve on the board, how many hours a week would I have to give up to be able to satisfy the needs of the board and the neighborhood association?
Maybe a month, like hours a month. Getting the report ready for treasurer. Mark, how much do you spend per month?
Apart from kind of the meetings, it's probably about an hour or so to put the minutes together. We have board meetings too. They're typically about once a month or so.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that's just like an average. We have had undertakings that take a lot more time. Like we did community engagement around those Kings Highway properties. God, was that a year or two ago at this point? And like that required a lot of work. Like it was almost like a part-time job for a bit, but that's unusual.
We have the development review committee now, so that's not on the neighborhood association anymore. And then for the Great Gathering, we did a lot of work for that too, but that's once a year. So not a lot of time commitment. So it's just what you can handle.
Yeah, it's a lot of times it's, what you want to give. Like if there's something you're particularly passionate about, like, this year we thought maybe in the summertime we would do like a popsicle event. And I think that required probably a little more outreach than we had done at the time. So probably in retrospect, like it was a good idea and we would probably want to try it again, but we would do a little more outreach this next time. So, yeah. Yeah, of course. All right, events and notes. So I hope all of you got the chance to attend the Great Gathering, which was this last month. I would say it was a resounding success. We were really happy with turnout. It was amazing seeing, all the number of kids who were there. Cami came with a veritable playground with her in her trunk. We had so many different things to do, and it seems like people had a lot of fun. So I hope you guys were able to come and that you enjoyed yourselves. Does anyone else want to say anything about how that went?
We enjoyed the musician. That's fine. I don't do too well. Oh, okay, sorry. Oh, Zoom. Oh, sorry. The musician, I don't recall her name. Do you? She really did a great job. My wife commented how much her songs were related to the kid. There were a lot of kids in attendance, and Celia really seemed to know how to interact, get them involved and fun, and just the attendance. I don't know. We're talking 300. Who's to say more? Oh, and the musician, is she from the neighborhood? Maybe.
Yeah, Celia lives on, I think, the 4500 block of Gibson. So yeah, she's lived here a while. Yeah. Showed up. Thank you. Yeah. But, oh yeah, and there's Cami. Cami made like a bubble maker. So bubbles are fun. Yes, that is correct. So yeah, here's just some kind of pictures, kind of how it went. You can see like all the kids that were there. It was a really good turnout. And again, we want to thank our sponsors. I sound like a podcast, but Washington University Medical Redevelopment Center helped underwrite the cost of the food truck. Park Central helped with soda and water, and Urban Chestnut, always comes through with donating beer for the event. So we're very, very thankful for their support. We couldn't pull it off without them. And of course, all the help of the board to kind of pull it together. Yeah, I think it went really well. You can see people waiting for the food. Funny story about the food truck. 2 days before the event, we got a text from the food truck we usually use saying that their truck was broken. And we almost freaked out, but they had a friend. So yeah, we kind of lucked out. Yay. And that's Celia. She was the musician who was playing. Okay. And so we have some upcoming events as well. And I'm going to hand this off to Cami to talk about.
Okay, this year we will be planting daffodils earlier than December, on October 15th, Saturday at 10 a.m. Location TBD. I was thinking just Shoto Park again, but if you have any ideas of where you want to have some daffodils planted, you might have like 400 bulbs, so a lot, but not too many. So yeah, join us to brighten up the park in the spring on October 14th.
And I think, as Ron mentioned, we're coming down to our last 2 neighborhood cleanups of the year. So on September 23rd, which is this weekend, on Saturday, we will be doing an alley cleanup. So this will be the 4300 block of Swan and Norfolk. So we'll do, normally we just kind of pick up along the street. This one will be a little more intensive. We'll have shovels and buckets and stuff for people, as well as gloves. Feel free to bring your own equipment if you want to. We appreciate any additional help. We're assuming this is going to take a lot of work, but it'll definitely be worth it in the end. So You can see our picture off to the side. This is from a past trash pickup where that boob tube had been sitting on the side of the street for months, and we finally were like, we're gonna pick that up. So it's always a good time. All right. And of course, we're always looking to help if you're so interested, to help plan events. Like I said, we do the Great Gathering, once a year, but we also organize the trash pickups, and we're always open to trying new ideas as well. We did flower plantings in the springtime, and then we do them in the fall as well. We also did tree plantings in Shoto Park. And so we're always looking to kind of get help and, see what else we can do around the neighborhood. And parking district, so Ron alluded to this. So the treasurer's office, if you remember, this used to be administered by Park Central, and became, I think as we gained more and more parking districts, became a little more complicated than their staff could handle. And so they asked the treasurer's office, who's responsible for parking in the city of St. Louis, to take over the responsibility of that. And they officially launched their system in July. So everyone should be able to request parking permits if you have one. If you live in a parking district, if you follow the information here. I think there's going to be some growing pains. If you have feedback on the system, please submit those to the contact information that's listed here, either the email address or William, I don't know. Hansis? Okay, thank you, Ron. William Hansis. They're compiling feedback, and I think they're hopefully going to evolve some of the process and procedures, as they kind of compile those. So, I know it's frustrating to onboard new systems and things like that. So I think everyone appreciates the patience as we kind of adapt to new systems. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Midtown.
Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara Schaefer. I'm the Executive Director of Midtown Community Services, which is right in the neighborhood. We're located right at 1202 South Boyle. So if you know where St. Cronin's Church is, we are located in their school building. We rent from them and utilize that whole building basically. So we are your neighbor, and Cami is one of our volunteers. And so asked me to just come and introduce Midtown and tell everybody a little bit about it. So Midtown has actually been in the neighborhood for 41 years in the same building. And 7 years ago, we were able to, we had been under Catholic Charities. And so 7 years ago, we were able to become an independent nonprofit, thanks to a great group of supporters, board members, staff, and most importantly, our community members. And so our whole idea is to be a community center that we can offer support to individuals and especially families and children. And so we do that through a number of programs. And so I always like to say that our programs sort of span a lifespan. So we have a little bit of something for each member of the family, where it begins with our Family Pride program for new and expecting parents until their kids age into school programs. It entails really case management, family and parenting workshops, play groups for the little kids, doula services for the moms when they're pregnant. And it's all designed based on a lot of it, a high number of our clients are African-American. And so that program is all designed to try and impact the infant and maternal mortality rates. That program started 30 years ago, and the infant and maternal mortality rates in this neighborhood, which you wouldn't think about because we're so connected right to Barnes and WashU and SLU. We're rivaling developing nations. And that isn't the case for this neighborhood anymore, hooray. But if you look north and south, city and county, those numbers are still the same. And so there's still work to do. And so that's what our program does for that one, as well as brings people together to build those supports so that they can sort of have a community around themselves. From that program, kids can move directly into our after school and our summer camp. So apologies if you back up to us on Kentucky and we get a little loud in the afternoon, or we're pretty loud during the summer. We have after school from kindergarten all the way up until their high school graduates. And then we have a 2-month summer camp, a June session and a July session, just being able to support. We make sure that kids, regardless of the financial situation that their families are born into, or the zip code that they're born into, have the same opportunities that kids in wealthier neighborhoods have. So that's just where we're trying to do our little part. They have tutoring. Cami was at our after school tutoring today. And so we just try and have a great time going on field trips, tutoring, all kinds of stuff. And then we have our programs for older adults. We have our Midtown Mamas, as well as our men's club. Midtown Mamas is the older ladies in the neighborhood who sort of said, hey, our grandkids are having a really great time at after school. We want to have a same thing. So it's also turned into really taking care of our older neighbors and the adults in the community to give them opportunities so they're not socially isolated. So we have a lot of the neighbors here in Forest Park Southeast who come every Wednesday or Thursday for programming for our Midtown Mamas, and then our men's club have same programming and then are really vital in our community garden. So our community garden also used to be located on Forks on Boyle, but we got moved out. And so we're now located on Hunt at 4467 Hunt. I'm just looked at the cross streets. Phil, we also have one of our board members, Phil Hagney, is here, also a neighbor. What's the cross streets?
Newstead on the east and Taylor on the west.
Yeah. So Newstead and Taylor. And so that is also a big part of our programming that we like to incorporate within all of it. Our after school kids are literally going to our garden tomorrow. Our Midtown Mamas were really the start of the garden, seeing that I think the garden is at least 20, maybe 15 years old. Seeing that there wasn't healthy options. There was just the corner store. So it started across the street. They were gardening, turned it into a store in our basement, and then City Greens is the iteration it was today. So at the time that we left Catholic Charities, they also left and became an independent organization. And so that's sort of the start of City Greens Market and our garden. So then our garden moved over, and so that's still a part of what we do. And so that's a really quick recap of what Midtown is. If you've ever wondered what's in that big building, is it all a school? Is it just St. Cronin's? That is what is happening. We have a lot of activity. We're pretty busy all the time. I brought a flyer and things like that. If ever you guys are interested in just being a part of something in your neighborhood, we would love to get to know more of our neighbors, whether you're interested in after school tutoring. It's a little bit more complicated because we have to go by state things of getting people background checks, but I don't think it was too painless. Great. That's a newer thing for us. And then the garden is always looking for volunteers. They meet Tuesdays and Fridays. We're looking to also add maybe some weekend days. Our garden is different than a lot of other community gardens where you take on your own bed and like that is your responsibility. I think ours is truly like what the definition of a community garden is that everybody takes care of everything. And everybody, if the garden fails, it's on everybody. It's not a matter of like you didn't show and so your patch is decimated and you don't get anything. And so all of the fruits of our labor is shared between community members, everybody who helps out at the garden. We also give it out to our community members and other programs. as well as we deliver 40 commodity food boxes from the food bank to homebound seniors in the neighborhood. So when we have a lot of excess, we also deliver it to them so they can have fresh vegetables. And we don't do a lot of fruit, but mostly fresh vegetables. I also just wanted to do a plug for some events that are happening next Tuesday. If you guys like Katie's Pizzeria, I know it's not right in the neighborhood, but Katie's Pizzeria in Rock Hill on the 26th from 11 to 10 are donating all of their profits that day to Midtown. So I have a flyer for that. And then October 13th, we have a pretty fun fundraiser at Schlafly's downtown. It's our lip sync. It is fun to watch people. I will not be performing, but it's a good time. Food, drinks, get to know Midtown. And then also right in your neighborhood, we're going to be having our second Fall Fest on October 20th with hot dogs, chili, trunk or treating, but you don't have to decorate. It's just look for the people with a light up armband and come get some candy, s'mores, all kinds of stuff, and just get to know your neighbors if anybody would like to join. So that's Midtown, unless anybody has any questions. We don't. So that was one thing we just haven't been able to continue since Catholic Charities. That funding went with them, and we haven't been able to get it back. We're getting a new egress. The state fire marshal with the new state licensing and everything that has come our way. So sorry for this. Yeah, usually, but we should probably change our language. Anybody can really join any of them, any program. We don't try and say age. Yeah, seniors, but you can be younger and be a part of it. Absolutely. And yeah, there's flyers, a lot of word of mouth for our community members, and then partnerships with other organizations to bring people in. So we do, yes. So there's a sign up on our website, which our website is midtownstl.org. You can just put your email address in, and we don't bombard people with emails. It's a rule of mine and our development director that we 2 max a month. So there's that. And then the other thing, if ever anybody is ever interested in the holiday season, we are gearing up for our holiday sponsorship program. So if you are interested in sponsoring a family, or we also do sponsoring seniors, where we put together a senior basket for them with toiletries and things like that. All of that in the beginning of October will all be on our website as well. I rely on the city's data. Yeah.
The ACS. So the ACS survey information just came out last week, I think, but it's not a census tract level. So if we looked at the 2020 census tract level data, is probably where we would need to grab that. I could probably grab it for the next meeting if we wanted to drill down into that to see how things have changed over time. It could be an interesting sidebar for sure. So yeah, I mean, I can probably pull that. Yeah, we won't be able to get block by block level, but yeah. St. Louis overall is, we've lost families, but the household count has continued to rise quite a bit. And so like, that's why we see, a lack of housing and, rising rent prices, especially in our neighborhood, is because even as the population has gone down, the occupied units have gone up because we've been getting an increase in like single family or double families. So especially in our neighborhood. But yeah. Vince.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Hi everyone, I'm Vince. I live on Manchester Street. I've definitely met some of you before. And I am presenting a topic. I'm applying to do a research scholarship with Fulbright in Oslo, Norway. So I've yet to apply. I'm applying October 10th, and we'll see if I get it. It's pretty competitive, but I wanted to present because it helps me become more familiar with my topic and able to talk about it. And it also helps boost my application resume. So thank you all for listening. So congestion pricing is essentially, if anyone remembers when ChatGPT first came out and there were peak hours, that is what congestion pricing is. So when you would come home from work and want to use ChatGPT, you couldn't do it because the servers were so overloaded. Eventually, a paid service came out. So if you paid, you'd have access during the peak demand. And not a lot of cities, London, Singapore was the first, then London, Milan, Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Oslo, Norway have a congestion pricing system in place. So when you're driving on certain roads into the central city, typically during rush hours, you have to pay an excess toll, which reduces congestion, reduces pollution, encourages people to use other modes of transportation like buses, trains, bikes, walking. In London, most notably, when they introduced congestion pricing, they added 300 buses on the same day to give people options. The added money from congestion pricing can be used to improve roads and infrastructure, and that's what happened in Norway. They had a really declining quality of roads, so they introduced this tolling system to improve their road quality. Singapore was the first one, as you can see with these gates. This is typically how it's done nowadays, where cameras read license plate numbers and every crossing is tallied by the system, and then users are mailed a bill or they can set up an auto pay system. And Singapore invested heavily with their congestion pricing funds into park and ride public transportation schemes. So a lot of our stations in the United States have huge parking lots with the idea that people would drive to the station, park their car, commute in on the train, come back out, drive their car back. It doesn't always work in our country, but there are a lot of reasons for that. And it has worked in Singapore, and they've also seen more widely distributed road usage. So instead of just being super concentrated in the morning and after work, it's more evenly spaced out and efficient. London, this picture is a good example of a toll ring. So once you enter in through that zone, the congestion pricing begins and you have to pay an added cost between, I believe, the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. It differs in every city. Some city it's only a cost during like the peak 2 hours of the day, but London does it all day. It's raised a ton of money for them, and they've used it to improve their bus infrastructure, their metro. And additionally, they started doing something where not only would they do congestion pricing, but they would charge vehicles extra money if they didn't meet emission standards. So it's helped the city transition to a more sustainable auto fleet. So in the United States, we don't do this. And the reason I'm researching this is because I want to understand if it's something we should do, if it makes sense in our country that's very car dependent and has great differences in neighborhood wealth and access to transportation and these kinds of things. in our city in particular, we're a very suburbanized place, metro area. So a lot of our population lives outside the city. So it theoretically could be something that would raise money for city infrastructure because so many people drive in. But this is something I want to explore and understand. As countries become more concerned with climate change, it's important to note that in our country, almost 30% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from personal vehicle tailpipes. So if we're going to meet climate goals in the future and that's going to be a priority, behavior may have to change. And this could be one way to make behavior change. New York City has proposed a congestion pricing scheme. They actually first proposed it in 2007, and it's taken this much time to get it to a point where they're now authorized to begin a testing and development phase. It's hard to implement because if a road in the zone was built with federal dollars in the highway age of the United States, it needs federal approval, so that can make things take considerably longer. But Los Angeles is also considering one that would potentially go into effect before the Olympics in 2028. And New York could go into effect as early as spring of next year. And it's below 60th Street in the tip of Manhattan. So it works particularly well in places that are islands because cars really have one way in, one way out, and you can kind of restrict all the traffic. If a city isn't like that, you can still do congestion pricing on toll roads, but driving behavior will likely shift to alternative routes, like on Waze. When it's a really heavy traffic route, it'll give you a side road. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because it can benefit businesses on typically unused routes that are more like family businesses and shops versus highways that are just highways with no businesses. So like I said, I'm proposing to research this in Oslo, Norway, under the US Student Fulbright program. Fulbright is a federal program that funds English teachers and researchers. And to apply as a researcher, you have to find a sponsoring researcher or professor or professional in a foreign country in the field. And so it just so happened that the one I found was in Oslo, Norway. And I worked backwards because I knew I wanted to do something in urban planning and I wasn't set on a specific topic, but this is relevant to me because of things I've experienced riding in public transportation and biking on our like all-terrain roads. So it could be beneficial and I want to explore whether it is. And the system there is unique because they have a central city toll and then like another second toll and then a further toll. So it'll be interesting if I get it to understand how behavior changes in between those rings and if some communities are hit harder than others, because if we're going to implement something in the United States, we want to learn from all the other programs out there and know how to do it in an equitable, sustainable way. Thank you.
Just in my experience of living in Europe, specifically Germany, I saw that their infrastructure and their roadways, their highways basically are not destinations, rather they're just a use of travel. In America, it's the opposite. You have to, let's say, Manchester, somewhere on Manchester is your destination. So you have to travel along Manchester or Chateau or whatever it's called, you know, eventually. So yeah, to get to your destination. So I think if it would have to be a great infrastructure change in order for this tax to actually work. But I would like to see it happen, but it would just take a lot.
Yeah, I'm not for or against it.
You know, work from home has changed things.
It has, yeah.
For the federal approval, what does that entail in the US? If you know.
I honestly don't know, but it's taken like 17 years in New York, so it's probably not easy. I think all I know is that if the road was built with federal dollars, there needs to be an approval. If you, yeah.
So I know you're coming into it early, but the thing that immediately came to mind for me was like toll roads, because US has a form of this, but it seems more like the end goal is different. Have you seen any research or like thoughts on how that might act as like a pseudo congestion pricing or like an alternative?
Yeah, it kind of does. Like I'm from Illinois, so I'm very familiar with toll roads, but this is specifically cities put this in place to reduce congestion, like in particular. So the toll road already exists, and you have the, like in Illinois, you have the iPass you put on your vehicle shields. And like in theory, if you are driving on those toll roads during 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., it's an additional charge to try and reduce congestion, encourage people to use other transit. But I mean, toll roads, yeah, they're kind of related. Yeah.
I will say with toll roads, because I did live in Western Massachusetts and they have toll roads. A lot out there is that the revenue they bring in from the tolls is for maintenance, especially out there where you have like real swings in weather. It puts a lot of pressure on maintaining the roads. But a lot of times, like you don't have another option but to use the toll road. Like, if you're driving from Western Mass into Boston, like you're not taking side roads. It would take you days. Like, you have to go on the toll road. Or the train. You drive to Springfield and take the train, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. I'm curious to learn more about this and hope I can have a winning application. We'll see. Thank you.
Yeah. Grab my. Okay. There it goes. Okay, so we're kind of at the end here, but we also just wanted to kind of survey the room and kind of get ideas from people about topics that they might be interested in, particular people that they would like to hear from. These are some things that, we just had ideas about, but, very much open to hearing from everyone, to see kind of, so what we have on here, of course, Peter Hoffman, he works for Legal Services of Eastern Missouri, and is very closely involved with the Vacancy Collaborative, which is working with the Land Reutilization Authority, which takes in delinquent properties in St. Louis, and a lot of them are vacant. So creating strategies to like rehabilitate those properties, get them back on the market or developed. Michael Allen is the director of the National Building Arts Center in Sauget, which has saved a lot of historic buildings that have been demolished over time, but has an extensive history kind of in the past of St. Louis and the history of St. Louis, kind of how it's developed the way it has, MSD rainscaping grants, the Boys and Girls Club, which is located around the corner, Dream Builders for Equity. They're doing a lot of work in Hyde Park in North City. Nate Lindsay, he is I don't know if he's the board chair anymore, but he's very involved in Dutchtown Main Streets, which is working to revitalize Dutchtown in an equitable way. Kimberly Ann Collins is our state representative. The legislative session is going to be starting soon. And she can give kind of a wrap up of what they worked on last session and kind of her thoughts going into the new session. Paraquad. So Paraquad is an organization that advocates for people with disabilities of all kinds. They're located on Oakland next to the Science Center, but they have a long history in St. Louis of, they've pushed for ADA accessibility. A lot of the sidewalk ADA ramps is from their advocacy. And so, asking them to come in. St. Louis Tree LC is kind of a citizen-led initiative to, I think, make sure we maintain the tree coverage that we have in St. Louis. We have a very robust tree systems here in St. Louis. St. Louis has for a long time, I think, invested in its tree coverage. And a lot of those trees need to continue to kind of get attention so that they don't die. This organization has really stepped in, I think, to help nurture those. Scott Ogilvie is a former alderman who now works for the city of St. Louis. He runs the Complete Streets program in the planning department. And so a lot of the newer, more innovative, comprehensive transportation approaches kind of have been, I think, cheerleaded by him over time. And then James McNally and Counterpublic. Counterpublic is a local organization that does placemaking and kind of doing more of those spontaneous, natural, enhancement of spaces within the city. So those are some of the things that, we'd had ideas about, but would love to hear back from everyone here if there's something that they're interested in. You can feel free to email us too if you don't want to, if you don't have them right away. Like I said, we're always looking for ideas. Who do you want to hear from? Thanks, Dan. All right, so just as a reminder, this Saturday, September 23rd, 10 a.m., we always meet at Newstead and Manchester, where the little Grove sign is at the park, right next to Creel with a Splash of Soul. We'll be doing the alley cleanup, so we always meet there and walk over. September 20th, oh, that's tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow, Cami, do you want to talk about the volcano?
So if you guys remember, I think in February, Aaron Dohan came to talk about his Trash for Trees event. He and I got talking about volcano mulching and how it's really bad for trees, and a lot of the street trees have volcano mulches. Yeah, mulch volcanoes. And so we started doing this once a month where we pick a block and just de-volcano mulch them. And he is a former teacher, so he's really great at teaching us how to do it. We've had people from outside of the neighborhood be the bulk of the people showing up. So I'd love if more people from the neighborhood showed up. It's really fun. We only do it for an hour, very small time commitment, and you get to chat with neighbors and save some trees.
And of course, if those don't work, hopefully we see you at our next meeting on October 16th. Again, we'll be doing board nominations. Oh, I will let Dan know he made a mistake. So, yes, we'll include that in the minutes. We'll get that corrected when we send out the email for sure. Thank you. October 17th, we'll be meeting here as usual, as well as on Zoom. Hopefully we see you there. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you again soon.